Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is the former president of Nigeria. He was actually president twice of Nigeria. He is a well-known mediator in many African crises, one of Africa's wise men, and he's now launching his own foundation. Our guest today is Olusegun Obasanjo. Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for coming on the France 24 interview. Before we get to the work of your foundation, I'm obviously going to ask you about Mali. There is a war going on. French troops have gone into Mali to squeeze out some Islamist groups that have taken control of that part of the country. What do you make of that war?
The Mali problem must not be seen and was not seen, thank God for that, as an African problem alone. It was seen as a problem that is of a global nature, because wherever you have terrorism, international terrorism, it must be taken for what it is. It's a threat to international security. And France braved it and joined hands and provided what I would call the vanguard to move in.
So you approve the French intervention in Mali without reservations?
Without reservation, I do.
As a proud African, doesn't it hurt you in a way that African troops were not the ones at the vanguard?
Well, don't forget that when I was in government, African troops were in the vanguard in Liberia. We were in the vanguard in Sierra Leone. We were in the vanguard even in Darfur. But at this time, it was an African solution where Africa felt that they did not have enough resources to implement their solution, and they got help, because it's not an African problem alone. And as a proud African, as you rightly said, I would have wanted all African problems to be solved by Africans. But because all Africans' problems are not African problems alone, African problems must be solved with African solution at the heart of it, and with resources from anywhere and everywhere. And that's what happened in Mali. It was the solution was conceived by Africa, ECOWAS and AU, and taken to the UN. For lack of resources, France had to initiate, and African troops followed on. And it has now become an African troop with the help of France. I don't see anything wrong in that.
I mean, did you really feel that this was a regional threat? Obviously, Nigeria is in the neighborhood. Was it maybe a threat to Nigeria? What's happened?
It's very much a threat to Nigeria.
Why?
Because the basis of what we were suffering in Nigeria, Boko Haram, they have their training ground, which has been established. They have their base, which had been established in Mali. So it's a threat not only to Nigeria, but to the entire region. And at one time, they were even talking of Sahelistan. Sahelian is a region that covers a lot of countries in Africa, from Mauritania to Djibouti. So that whole region was a threat. And any threat that covers that region like that, how many countries?
But aren't you afraid, some people say the war in Mali is a consequence of the war in Libya. Aren't you afraid that the danger will go elsewhere, spread elsewhere, including in your country? That is kind of whack-a-mole game where you hit one place, the danger reappears elsewhere.
Well, the war in Mali is partly as a consequence of the event in Libya. But if we have a saying in my part of the world that if you caught a snake and you don't ensure that it's killed, a wounded snake is a more dangerous reptile to handle than a snake that you have ensured that is killed. The war in Mali must not be allowed to move elsewhere. It must be dealt with. If the terrorists have moved to anywhere else, they must be searched, they must be followed, and they must be sought out and be dealt with until they give in.
So you think the war in Mali will improve the security situation in your country?
Of course, I believe it will. Okay. Because when the situation, those who are fomenting a problem in Nigeria have no base to go into, either in a nearby country or a neighboring country or within the region. There are two things that they will have. We have to resort to. Either they continue to fight without a base outside, or they give in which case it will come to an end. And whichever one, at the end of the day, it will be, they will be exterminated.
Do you think they will give in at the end?
I don't know. I don't know, because you have to think of what are the reasons for they taking up going into terrorism the way they have gone into it. Is it poverty? Is it drug? Is it indoctrination? Is it lack of education? What is it? And if we know what it is, we will be able to say, yes, you address this or you address that. To my own mind, it's a combination of all this put together.
Which brings us to your foundation. You want to focus on some of those issues because you believe that in Africa there are real problems in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of youth empowerment. And why yet another foundation?
We have taken areas that we can manage. Take education that you have talked about. Now, the area of education is wide. Is it quality of education you will talk about? Is it primary education you will talk about? Is it technical education we will talk about? It's so wide. But we have narrowed our focus to girl-child education, which affects almost all countries in Africa. And the good old saying goes, educate a girl child, you educate a family. Now, what can we do? As I said, there are already some organizations in this area. There's an organization that calls itself Girl Child Concern. Now, what are they doing? How are they doing it? What can we do more? What success have they achieved? How can we help to enhance their own program? What can we give? Can we be a catalyst in any form? Now, take the area of health. The area of health is wide. Now, HIV/AIDS have been with us for quite some time. Now, we want to narrow our focus to non-communicable diseases and waterborne diseases. Non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, which in most African countries are regarded as diseases of the rich. But you go to the rural areas and the ghettos and in our big cities, many people are suffering from these diseases without their knowing. And these are diseases that can be managed easily if you know you have got them. The youth, if we do not do anything about anything that will really deal with the issue of youth empowerment, youth, employment, we are all sitting on a keg of gunpowder. And what can we do? How can we do it? Now, where have people done something that addresses the issue? We are looking at this not only inside Africa, but in Africa and elsewhere. And then the issue of food and nutrition security. We have a program that we call Feed Africa. But on top of all this is the issue of leadership. Am I going to be involved? Of course I will be involved. I will be really the point man as far as leading in this area is concerned. And leadership must be the anchor.
Okay. President Obasanjo, thank you very much for answering our questions. Thank you very much for watching this interview here on France 24.